I was 15 years old. I was 5'11" and weighed 140 pounds. Someone once threw rice at me and missed. Here's a picture of me at 15. Okay, so that's not really me. This is me, but you can see a striking resemblance, right? I lacked confidence like most teens do, but wanted to find my niche in life. I came from a family of wrestlers, so I decided to join the school wrestling team. How hard could it be? I quickly realized it would be the most physically demanding thing I had ever experienced up to that point, some days leaving me in tears. If school bullies throwing me to the mat like a rag doll in practice wasn't bad enough, getting pinned in front of family and friends again and again and again was rough. Despite all the challenges in the sport, I had some wins that motivated me to finish the season, including pinning one of my strongest opponents. I enjoyed myself, but assumed I was finished with wrestling and would move on to high school and focus on basketball. My sophomore year arrived, and I didn't make the final cut of the boys' basketball team. While somewhat disappointed, I wanted to stay active, so I decided to go out for this high school wrestling team at Pocatello High School. Again, how hard could it be? The transition from junior high to high school wrestling was steep. The room was always 85 to 90 degrees, and I was competing with seniors for spots on the active roster. At one point, I said to my cousin, who was also on the team, "I think I'm the worst wrestler in the room." And his reply was, "Yeah, probably." What's family for, right? I gave it my best efforts that year, but fell very short of qualifying for the state tournament. While attending the state tournament as a spectator, I was standing next to my coach, Clayton Armstrong, and I said, "Coach, in 2 years, I'm going to be wrestling in the state finals." I admit, I was pretty full of myself when I said it, kind of hoping for a pat on the back from Coach Armstrong. Yeah, no, didn't happen. Instead, he didn't even look in my direction as he took a heavy chest huff and almost mocking me said, "Well, you'd better get working hard then." It stung a little, but actually served as a source of motivation to prove my coach wrong. From that point forward, the clock was ticking. After a summer of training, my junior year arrived and I was motivated to qualify for the state tournament. In my wrestling locker, I had a note in large font that said over and over again, "State qualifier, state qualifier, state qualifier, state qualifier, state qualifier," just to keep it in my head that that was the focus that year. After a lot of setbacks, like going a solid month without winning a single match, or losing 13 pounds week in and week out to make my weight class and scaring my mother to death, I managed to make it to the district tournament where I pinned my crosstown rival from Highland High School, who defeated me 3 times the season before, and I qualified for the state tournament. Yeah, that was my mom. As a senior, I still had the focus to make the state finals. The season began, and almost immediately, obstacles made their presence felt. Frustrating defeats, 9 stitches above my right eye, a huge gash in my bottom lip, and torn muscles in my left shoulder. The most frustrating of the setbacks were 3 consecutive losses to my district rival throughout the season from Minico High School. In the first defeat, he pinned me in less than a minute. In the second match, he reopened my healing cut above my eye. And in the district finals, he carried me over his shoulder and put me to the mat like a father sending a pouty child to bedtime. That's the girlfriend stealer. That's what they call that move. Fast forward to the state finals. He and I were set to meet for a 4th time. Winner punches his ticket to the state finals. This was the ultimate goal, but I was afraid of failing again. My dad wisely pulled me aside and he said, son, use your past failures to find a way to beat him. I don't care if you win or lose, but you make him remember you for the rest of his life. Whew. Yeah, at that point, I felt like Rocky Balboa. I was ready to run through a wall for my dad. By the end of the match, I found myself anxiously hanging on to a win. Got a 5-2 decision and fought him off to make it to the state finals. Yeah, that was my mom again. I had made my goal. I had attained it. The goal that I had set 2 years prior. Coach Armstrong was retired by then, but he was one of the first to greet me off the mat after my improbable win with a smile on his face. But the look he had on his face pretty much said what I was already thinking. Dude, seriously, how did you do that? I learned a lot of lessons in wrestling, but the most valuable was that failure is okay. I failed a lot. Remember, it was the failure of getting cut from the basketball team that got me back into wrestling. At my high school graduation, I actually thanked the basketball coach for cutting me in 10th grade. The bewildered look on his face was priceless. When anyone fails at anything, they have 2 choices: give up and go home, or learn from the mistakes and the failures, what didn't work the last time, and try to fix it. I don't know about any of you, but failure doesn't feel good. Whether it be failure in a wrestling match or failure in a game of Uno with my cocky 10-year-old son, I don't like it. But failure can serve as a tool to inspire us and motivate us to aspire to greater things. How awesome do you feel when you've accomplished something after working so hard to obtain that goal, leaving behind all the failures that chased you in every direction? The failures that I had to overcome to reach the state finals gave me the confidence to go farther in my life than I had ever imagined. Was wrestling hard? No question, absolutely. But it was after the failures that I accomplished the impossible. So in the famous words of wrestling legend Dan Gable, after wrestling, everything else in life is easy. The failures I had to overcome gave me the confidence to learn 2 new languages, to ask my future wife on a date when I knew that she was out of my league, which she still is, by the way, to be the first in my family to graduate from college, go Bengals, and to take on high-pressure jobs in my career. I experienced failures all along the way, but learned resiliency and how to overcome those failures to ultimately come out on top. So the question is to you, where do we want our youth to be in 2030? By that time, they'll be in their 20s, having real-life experiences with real-life consequences. Have we gotten away from allowing our kids to fail? It is a natural tendency, instinct, if you will, as a parent, to shield your children from pain and disappointment. But are we doing them any favors if they grow to become adults who don't know how to learn from their mistakes? American entrepreneur Dan Pallotta has said, when you prohibit failure, you kill innovation. Early in my banking career, I closed one of my first loans. Yay! The excitement was short-lived when I realized that I had made a mistake that cost the bank money. I was very troubled by this, but my manager at the time pulled me aside and said, well, this $300 mistake is a $300 training under your belt. So let's try to prevent any additional training, huh? I was still very frustrated and embarrassed, but I never made the same mistake again, nor one so costly to the bank. Some keys to help navigate failure with our children. Set out verbal and written goals. When I told my coach that I was going to make the state finals, I was on the hook. My internalized desires were now out in the open for everyone to see and hear. So from that moment on, I had accountability. If a goal is not on paper or shared with a trusted family member or friend, it never happened. You never lose. You either win or you learn, but you never lose. When I'm praising my children, I don't simply just tell them that they're the smartest or the strongest or the best. I tell them something like, I know you worked very hard for this. You put in a lot of hard work with some sacrifice and failure to obtain this goal. I'm so proud of you and the dedication you showed to obtain this goal. When I do this, I'm not only praising my child, but I'm also reminding them of the hard work and the dedication and the failures that they had to overcome to obtain that goal. Today I have kids of my own, including 2 boys who wrestle. When my oldest son started wrestling, he went through the same frustrations that I went through when I started. I wanted to protect him, but I found myself giving him the same wisdom that my father gave me. That failure is okay. That we can learn from our mistakes, learn from those errors to ultimately find the success that you're looking for. And to make that 8-year-old remember him for the rest. No, I didn't say that. I'm kidding. I didn't say that. But when he won that first gold medal, I could see the pride beaming from his face as he gave me the biggest hug ever. He appreciated the victory even more, and it was even sweeter than had he dominated every match. But the failure helped him understand that hard work pays off. I knew then that the failures that I had experienced in my life helped me become a better father and allowed me to pass on the same wisdom to my son. Failure is okay and should be embraced. Our youth need to understand that failure is not a definition, but merely an event, that it teaches resiliency, hard work, dedication, and sacrifice so that they can ultimately achieve anything they set their sights on. What are your own failures? Will you let them define you? Or will you seek out to redefine failure, to ultimately show everyone who you really are, show the world who you really are? What will your story be after the failure? I hope I've given you some things to consider when thinking about failure. If I failed to do so, that's okay. It's just another opportunity for me to improve. Thank you.